Is the fear of ridicule stronger than the will to be great, in your opinion?
Well, one aspect of it is that the public cares a lot about this subject. To me, it sounds like a big plus because science is funded by taxpayers, and it would be appropriate for academia to reflect the interests of the public. However, many of my colleagues have a different opinion. They are worried about people making nonsensical statements about aliens, the science fiction ideas that are not substantiated by any evidence. There are all kinds of crazies making statements that they have this and that kind of experience that is not, again, substantiated by data. So they argue we don't want to sleep in the same bed as those people. But what they're missing is 1,000 years ago, there were claims that the human body has a soul and therefore it should not be dissected. And imagine if scientists were to say, we don't want to conduct operations on the human body because there are these crazy notions that it might have a soul and it will be affected by an operation. Where would modern medicine be? My point is, what matters is the question and the intellectual significance of exploring it, rather than the fact that there are some people making wrong statements or unsubstantiated statements about it. If you go to the courtroom and you listen to people under oath making nonsensical statements, okay, but then you end up with DNA evidence that demonstrates what really happened there. Obviously, you pay attention to the DNA evidence and you don't care about the fact that people made some statements beforehand. And that's why many people on death row were exonerated eventually. So my point is science operates the same way. We want to find the evidence that will guide us towards the truth. But if you already resist collecting the evidence, you can always argue, I don't have extraordinary evidence, therefore this extraordinary claim should not be funded, should not be explored. That's the wrong approach because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Without seeking the evidence, you will never find it.
Right.
And, that's the approach that the Vatican took when Galileo said, look through my telescope and you will see the moons of Jupiter moving around it and not around the Earth. And they said, we don't want to look through a telescope. It will change the view that we advocated. But in 1992, 350 years after Galileo died, the Vatican released a statement saying Galileo was right. That was 2 decades after humans landed on the moon. Yeah. It was a bit late, but they felt that it's foolish to resist the notion that the Earth is not at the center of the universe, and so they agreed to it. So my point is, if I get to follow the evidence, if I get sufficient funds from private donors to find evidence that will be beyond any reasonable doubt, it would appear foolish for the critics, for the skeptics to ignore it. That's the point I want to get to. I want to be flooded with data, flooded with evidence so that nobody would be able to deny it.